Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are wading into a dilemma that is, well, it's sticky, it's sweet, and it's surprisingly complex.
It all comes from a 2026 social media trend that's caught the eye of your Aunt Tante Grown.
Right. And she has really good intentions, but she's running on a couple of um, powerful but pretty flawed ideas.
Yeah, the first is what we're calling sugar sickness. It's this belief that, if white sugar is bad, then natural homemade honey must be this super healthy alternative.
And she's ready to go.
Hmm.
The trend says growing your own honey is hot, so she's planning to build some beehives on the patio.
But then you have these two boys, Kesser and Steen, who are standing in the way. And they have two really sharp objections that I think form the mission for our deep dive today.
Okay, so what's the first one?
The first one is pure chemistry. They're basically saying, look, sugar is sugar. Honey, it's mostly glucose and fructose. It's not the health food miracle people think it is.
But the second point is where it gets really interesting, right? She wants to help nature, but she's kind of missing the point.
Completely. And that's what we need to unpack. Why focusing on domesticated honeybees, which are essentially livestock, is often tackling the wrong problem.
So today's mission is twofold. First, we'll get into the whole sugar versus honey thing.
And then we'll show why supporting wild insects is way more effective than just adding more honeybees. We'll look at Kesser and Steen's very specific, very actionable plan to turn a small patio into a thriving home for the wild insects that actually need our help.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's start with the sugar part, because Kesser and Steen are spot on here. People think honey is this magical health food.
Yeah.
But refined sugar, that's sucrose. It's one molecule of glucose joined to one of fructose. Your body has to work to break that bond.
Okay, and honey is different how?
Honey is, you could say, pre-digested by the bees. It's mostly free glucose and free fructose, already separated.
Ah, so it hits your system differently.
Marginally. I mean, some argue it has a slightly better glycemic index, but here's the key. Honey is still about 80% sugar by weight.
Wow, 80%. So all those trace minerals and antioxidants you see on the label, they don't really move the needle against that much sugar.
Not at all. You'd have to eat just an insane amount of honey to get any real benefit from them. As a sweetener, it's functionally almost the same as table sugar.
So if Tante Grin is really worried about her sugar intake,
The answer is to reduce all sugar, not just switch the label from white to gold.
okay, so that settles objection number one. Now for the big one, the environmental side of it, this idea that more beehives equals more biodiversity.
Yeah, and if we zoom out a little, the picture is, well, it's pretty alarming. We've seen this huge decline in flying insects all across Europe.
You mean like the famous German study?
Exactly, the Krefeld study. And they showed it wasn't just rare species disappearing. It was a drop in everything, even common insects.
It's the windshield effect, right? I remember my parents talking about having to clean the car windshield constantly after a drive. That just doesn't happen anymore. Yeah.
It really doesn't. The insects are just not there. And what's fascinating here is that it's not a mystery why. The causes are systemic.
Like huge fields of just one crop.
Monoculture landscapes, yeah.
Yeah.
Pesticides, fertilizer runoff, and this human need to sort of clean up nature everywhere.
And that tidiness is what really hurts the wild insects.
It hits them so hard because they have these very specific needs. Some need bare soil for nests. Others need dead wood or hollow stems from last year's plants to lay their eggs.
Things we tend to clear away in the fall.
We tidy away their homes. So then the domesticated honeybee comes along, Apis mellifera. They're cute. We see them. They make something useful for us.
And we make the jump. More bees must be good for everything. The honey illusion.
But the honeybee is basically livestock. It's a managed animal. And when you dump thousands of them into an environment that's already struggling for resources,
They become competitors.
fierce competitors. A single beehive has tens of thousands of workers. They can fly for miles. They're incredibly efficient at sucking up all the available nectar and pollen.
And the wild guys, the solitary bees and hoverflies, they just can't compete with that kind of industrial scale operation.
Not at all. And they don't have a beekeeper to feed them over winter or treat them for diseases.
Oh, that's a good point.
And worse, managed honeybees can carry diseases like the varroa mite and spread them to the native pollinators it flowers. It's really not a helpful relationship for the wild insects.
So the real job of pollination is being done by this whole invisible workforce.
Yes. Wild bees, hoverflies, butterflies, moths, beetles, even some mosquitoes are pollinators. And what's fascinating here is that many of them are actually better pollinators for specific native plants than the honeybee is.
So the best thing Tante Grin can do is shift her focus, help the local crew.
Exactly. Provide the right food and the right shelter for the native species that are already there and are struggling.
Which brings us back to Kesser and Steen. And I can hear people thinking, my little patio, a few pots. What difference can that possibly make?
And that's a fair question, but their focus on growing stuff in pots right near the kitchen, it's not about saving the world from a balcony. It creates something else. It creates attention.
Training and reading life. I love that phrase.
It's a training ground. When you see your little system every single day, you can't ignore the connections. You see the aphids appear, then you see the hoverfly larvae eating them. It becomes real.
And that changes your sense of responsibility. You're less likely to just spray poison on something you're planning to eat.
You're not. The link between the soil, the water, and what's on your plate becomes concrete.
Okay, so let's get practical. What are Kesser and Steen's actual steps for turning Tante Groen's patio into this wild insect haven?
Number one, and it's the most effective, is plant choice. They say, get rid of the purely ornamental flowers.
The ones that are just bred to look pretty for us?
Exactly. The ones with so many petals a bee can't even get inside. Replace them with native wild plants and, crucially, culinary herbs that you let flower.
So things like thyme, oregano, chives. Why are they so much better?
They've evolved alongside the local insects, so the insects recognize them. The flowers are simple, accessible. A flowering patch of thyme or oregano is like a high-density canteen for pollinators. And parsley, if you let it go into its second year.
It makes those huge flower heads.
Huge. And they are absolute magnets for hoverflies.
That's brilliant. So you're creating a wildlife habitat with your herb garden. What about the lawn?
Ditch the perfect manicure. Mow it in stages or just let the edges grow a bit longer. Let the clover and the dandelions bloom. They provide a really stable food source when not much else is flowering.
And then there's the messy corner. Probably the hardest step for a tidy gardener.
Oh, absolutely. But it is the single most important part. You have to leave a corner for mess, piles of old stems, some branches, maybe some leaves.
But that's where they live.
That's where they complete their life cycles. Many wild bees overwinter in those hollow stems. If you clean up in the fall, you're literally throwing out the next generation of your garden's helpers.
They also talk about recycling clippings, right? A kind of micro-composting.
Yes. Instead of bagging up grass clippings or leaves, just use them as mulch right there in the pots. It keeps moisture in the soil, and it feeds the little microorganisms. It makes the whole system more resilient.
And the last thing, which seems so obvious, is water.
So simple, but so vital, especially in hotter summers. Just a shallow dish with some stones or pebbles in it.
So they have a place to land.
Exactly. A bowl of water is a death trap for a tired bee. The stones give them a safe place to land and drink. The whole idea is to make the garden less controlled and more integrated. Food, waste, flowers, and life, all in one system.
So once that habitat is set up, they move into these more complex, engineered ideas for growing in containers.
This is where their thinking gets really systemic. Let's talk about Steen's black basin idea. He suggests putting a black basin or tray under the pots to collect all the runoff water.
Right, which tackles nutrient leaching. That's the huge invisible waste in container gardening.
It is. Every time you water a pot, you're just flushing valuable nutrients out the bottom. This captures them. They stay in the system.
And the fact that it's black isn't just a design choice.
No, the black absorbs heat. That warmth speeds up all the biological activity in the water and the roots. But, and this is key, you have to manage it.
Because the water evaporates, but the salts and minerals are left behind.
Right, so the solution gets more and more concentrated. Tante Groen would have to keep an eye on it, add fresh rainwater to dilute it, otherwise it can become toxic for the plants.
But it gives you this amazing level of control.
Incredible control. You can decide which plant gets the strong soup, the more concentrated water, and which one just needs a regular drink. You can't do that in a normal garden bed.
And what about adding fertilizer? They talk about making a fermented liquid feed.
Yeah, a tea or soup from herbs or seaweed, but they see it differently. It's not just plant food. It's primarily food for the soil life.
For the microbes and fungi.
Exactly. You feed the microorganisms, and they, in turn, break down the nutrients and feed the plant roots. But in a closed system like this, you have to be so careful.
Right, because there's nowhere for the excess to go.
If you add too much, the system can go anaerobic, it runs out of oxygen, it'll start to smell bad, and it becomes toxic. It's this direct, immediate feedback loop.
It sounds almost like they're creating miniature wetlands.
That's a great way to put it, this idea of growing in a sand filter. It is exactly that, a mini wetland. The life on the sand grains and the plant roots are actively cleaning the water as it cycles through.
Which leads to their final clever idea, the snail strategy.
It's so elegant. It's all about how you water. They use passive sub-irrigation.
Meaning the water comes from the bottom up.
Yeah, they drill holes in the buckets, but maybe an inch or two up from the base. So there's a small reservoir at the bottom, and the water wicks up through the soil.
And this is better than copper tape or coffee grounds.
Way better because it changes the habitat itself. Snails need moisture to move. They hate crawling on dry, vertical surfaces.
So by watering from below, the top of the soil and the sides of the bucket stay dry most of the time.
Exactly. The snail just finds the environment completely uninteresting. It's a systemic solution, not a barrier. You're designing the problem out of existence.
So what does this all mean?
It means Kesser and Steen's whole approach just moves beyond these simple, trendy fixes. It's not about more bees or more poison. It's about creating small, integrated systems where you can actually see how food, life, and waste all connect.
That shift in thinking from managing a crop to managing a living system, that feels like the real takeaway here.
It is. And for you, if you try this, you learn so fast because the feedback is immediate. Overfeed the basin. It smells. Tidy the messy corner. The pollinators disappear. That direct feedback is way more valuable than just getting a big harvest.
This raises an important question. Is the greatest benefit of this kind of small-scale growing not actually the food you get, but that direct, visible feedback loop? Seeing how soil, water, and life are all tied together. Think about how that immediate, observable cause and effect changes how you make decisions and gives you an insight that no expert advice or social media trend ever could. That skill, learned on a small, messy patio, might just be the biggest yield of all.